So today we're going to talk about uncollected goods. In basics, what happens if someone brings something in your store for repair, or let's just say reserves something, or even pays for something, and they fail to collect it. What do you actually do with that item? Are you okay reselling it, or what? Well, today I'm going to run through all the rules and regulations to do this, but I'm going to make it as simple as possible. But first, here's a message from our sponsors. So as I said, we're going to be talking about basically uncollected goods. So when someone fails to collect something from your store that they may or may not yet have paid for, whether it be a repair or something you've ordered in for them. Bear in mind, this information is for reference purposes, so whatever terms and conditions you write down, you may want to get them checked via a lawyer or so forth. So before you can actually sell these items or dispose of them, you have to abide by two basic rules. First of all, you need to contact the customer with a written letter. Ideally, you want to make sure that is recorded or in a certain way that that person has to sign for that letter to make sure that they have actually received it and you've got proof that they've received it. In that letter, you have to advise them it's their obligation to collect the items. You also have to tell them in the letter where the goods are located and where they can get them. In the letter, you have to basically tell the person some simple steps. First of all, what it is that you're contacting them about. Secondly, you need to actually tell them, obviously, where you're located and how they can collect these items. And if they have yet to pay for them, how they can pay for them. Make sure you include your full name and your full address as well as their details in there. And any details of any money they owe, that includes any repair costs, storage costs or any other charges they have incurred while the device or items are in your store. Officially, you can deliver this in person, or you can get it sent to them. In the law of the lands, it does say that it doesn't have to be recorded at this step, but I would recommend you do. It's always best to get proof about everything you're doing, and a recorded stamp doesn't usually cost that much more than a standard one. Okay, now it's been 28 days since you sent that letter out and you have not heard anything back at all. Now you can actually go to the next step. So yes, you do have to wait 28 days between the first step and this step. In the second step, you need to make sure you send this as a recorded letter. So you have got a definite proof that it has been received, so they have to sign for that actual letter. So there's no way they can turn around and say they did not receive it. In this letter, you need to tell them about your intention to sell the item. You need to make sure it's clear and to the point that they understand that you're going to sell this if they do not collect it, and you need to put a specific date on the actual the letter to tell them what date you are going to sell it at. Now you may ask, what is sufficient time to basically let them know when the item is going to be sold? Well, legally, if they owe you money, it has to be at least 3 months. So that's 4 months from the initial letter, and then obviously you've got that 28 days before the first and the second letter, and then another 3 months from the second letter. So what happens when they don't collect the item after that additional 3 months? Well, you actually have the right to sell the item now. But here's the catch. Legally, you have to give the proceeds or the profit of the sale on top of the price what they owed back to the customer. So let's say the item's worth £100, but they had, say, a £50 repair cost to it, which they didn't pay. So you sell the item, and let's just say you do get £100 for it. £50 would go to yourself to cover your costs, and you could also add in extra costs. This has cost you, for example, sending the letters out and so forth. And any profit after that would go directly to the customer. One thing I see a lot of repair shops and other places where you can collect goods from in this manner is they will charge a storage fee after so many days to cover obviously insurance and the cost of keeping the item in stock. So let's just say the item has been with you for 90 days. You could tell the customer if they've not collected it within the first 30 days, you will charge £1 per day for every extra day the item is in your care. So that way they would have owed you another £60. So that would have actually gone over the £100 value of the item when you add in the £50 of the repair cost, as well as the £60 for storage and so forth. So in theory you would actually keep all the profits of the item you have sold. So when contacting the customer, you need to make sure you're sending it to their proper address, whether it be the registered address or whatever. If it is a business, you need to send the letters to the business address, so the proper registered address of that company. And I also suggest if it was an individual who was working at that business, you also send a copy of the letter to them. And make sure you keep a record of everything you do, just in case. But you may ask, what happens if the owner of the property, what you are holding, is no longer at the address you're sending the letters to? Well, you can still go ahead with a sale, as long as you've taken reasonable steps to trace that customer down. So as long as you've gone through all the methods I've said above, then you should be fine. But as I've said many times, make sure you record everything you do. So dates, times, receipts and so forth of sending this information out, just in case this person tries to contact you after 6 months and says, where's my stuff? Obviously, if you're selling something on which may have a customer's personal information on, for example a computer or laptop, you need to make sure there is absolute no way anyone else can get that information off of there. So if that means removing the hard drive and destroying it before the item's sold, then so be it. But again, that is another cost of the sale which you can take away from the cost of actually refunding the customer. Obviously, when you've been doing all this, in the first place, when you've basically took that order for the item what they should be collecting, or they brought the repair in, or whatever it may be, you need to make sure you have got their correct name and address on file and get them to sign a piece of paper to say, yes, this is correct. So there's no way they can turn around and say, you've been sending it to the wrong address, I don't live here. If they've signed and says, this is my address, then they've got no way to turn around and say, oh, you've been sending it to the wrong place. Well, if they have, that's their fault for not reading your terms and conditions and actually signing them to say it was correct. Please remember, this video is for general guidance only. Obviously, rules and conditions are different in every location, so your county or country may have different rules. So these rules are correct as of reading them today, but obviously things change sometimes on a weekly basis. So with any terms and conditions, you get your customers to sign, and obviously this information should be in your terms and conditions when you get a customer to sign something, when they come in your store to order this item or whatever it may be. You need to make sure they're aware of all these things. But obviously If you don't tell them any of these things, then you really haven't got a leg to stand on. So you need to make sure you start telling the customer, or at least having it written so they can sign it from day one, that these are your rules. I'm not a lawyer, and lawyers, well, they like to bend rules. So let's put things straight, is always check with a lawyer any terms and conditions you're going to present to customers. Thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. Don't forget to press the subscribe button over here. That way you'll get all the latest news and all the reviews we do on a weekly basis. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.